Kaitlan Collins, CNN's chief White House correspondent, asks Trump a direct question on a serious issue tied to accountability. No yelling, no interruptions, just a clear, on-the-record question. It's the kind of moment that's supposed to be routine. A reporter asks, a president answers, the public listens. For a brief second, everything feels normal. And that's exactly why what happens next lands so hard. Before we go any further, take 1 second. Subscribe if you want real political moments without the spin. Tap like so this doesn't disappear into the algorithm. And comment right now, was this a power move or a deflection? Now stay with me, because this moment is about far more than one question. Trump doesn't respond to the substance of what Kaitlan Collins asked. Instead, he responds to her. He shifts his focus away from the issue and locks onto the reporter standing in front of him. Not angrily, not loudly, calm, controlled, almost casual. And that's what makes it uncomfortable. He criticizes her credibility, calls her the worst reporter on CNN, questions her professionalism, mocks her tone, even comments on her facial expression, saying he's never seen her smile. At that moment, the original question effectively disappears. The press room reacts in real time. Some people laugh, not because it's funny, but because laughter is a release valve in tense moments like this. Others freeze, unsure whether to respond or stay silent. Cameras zoom tighter, sensing what every experienced journalist and producer knows instantly. This is the clip. And just like that, the entire press conference shifts. It is no longer about accountability. It is no longer about policy. It is no longer about the issue that was just raised. It becomes about confrontation. This is not an accident. This is not Trump losing his temper. This is not a spontaneous outburst. This is a tactic. One Trump has refined over years in politics, media, and public combat. By attacking the reporter instead of addressing the question, Trump changes the frame of the exchange. The pressure is no longer on him to explain or justify anything. Now the spotlight is on the media, on CNN, on perceived bias. The narrative moves instantly, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Trump never raises his voice. He never appears flustered. He doesn't rush. He controls the tempo. He delivers the criticism, lets it land, and then moves on, leaving the question unanswered and unrecoverable. In media terms, the moment is already gone. Supporters watching see strength, a leader pushing back, someone refusing to be cornered by what they view as hostile journalism. Critics see something else entirely, a calculated dodge, a way to avoid uncomfortable scrutiny by turning the exchange personal. But here's the part that matters more than either interpretation. Everyone is watching. The clip spreads instantly. Headlines don't read, Trump declines to answer question on accountability. They read, Trump clashes with CNN reporter. The substance fades, the spectacle dominates. And this is where the real power of moments like this lies. Trump understands something fundamental about modern media. Attention is finite, and conflict wins. A clean policy answer will be forgotten within hours. A confrontation like this lives for days, sometimes weeks. This isn't the first time Trump and Kaitlan Collins have clashed. Over the years, their exchanges have followed a familiar pattern. Collins presses with direct questions. Trump responds by challenging her framing, her network, or her credibility. And each time the result is the same. The exchange goes viral. Supporters cheer. Critics condemn. The original issue gets buried. It's a loop, and it works. To understand why, you have to understand the environment these moments exist in. Press conferences are no longer just informational events. They're performances. Every word is clipped. Every reaction is analyzed. Every facial expression becomes a headline. Trump doesn't treat press conferences as opportunities to inform. He treats them as arenas. And in an arena, the goal isn't explanation, it's dominance. By confronting the reporter, Trump reasserts control of the space. He signals to his audience that he will not play defense. He will not accept the premise of the question. He will not validate the authority of the person asking it. That message resonates deeply with his base. But it also creates something else, a distraction powerful enough to pull oxygen away from the original topic. Within minutes, social media is flooded with clips of the exchange. Cable news panels debate tone, respect, and press freedom. Supporters and critics argue endlessly in comment sections. Meanwhile, the accountability issue that sparked the question barely registers. This is not coincidence. This is the system functioning exactly as designed. And it's not just about Trump. This moment reveals something uncomfortable about modern political coverage. Journalists are expected to ask tough questions. Politicians are incentivized to turn those questions into spectacle. The clash becomes the story, not the answer. For reporters like Kaitlan Collins, this puts them in an impossible position. Push too hard, and you become the target. Back off, and you're accused of being complicit. Either way, the power imbalance remains. And Trump knows this. He knows that by making the reporter the focus, he forces the media to cover itself, to defend itself, to debate its own role. That self-referential loop is a gift to anyone trying to avoid scrutiny. Watch the sequence again and you'll notice something else. Trump doesn't linger. After delivering the critique, he pivots to another question, another reporter, another topic. There's no opportunity for follow-up, no chance to recover the original line of inquiry. The moment is sealed. This is a masterclass in media redirection. Not because it's polite, not because it's fair, but because it's effective. And effectiveness, in this context, is measured in attention. By the end of the press conference, most viewers won't remember the original question. They'll remember the clash, the tone, the insult, the tension. They'll argue about whether Trump was right or wrong, not whether he answered anything. That's the trade-off. And it's one Trump is clearly willing to make. But here's where it gets deeper. This exchange isn't just about Trump versus CNN. It's about trust, and who the public believes has the right to question power. When Trump attacks a reporter, he isn't just defending himself. He's reinforcing a narrative that institutions like the media are adversaries, not intermediaries. That framing reshapes how audiences interpret everything that follows. Questions become attacks, accountability becomes bias, journalism becomes opposition. Once that shift takes hold, answering questions becomes optional. And that's the danger critics point to. Not because the exchange is rude, not because it's dramatic, but because it changes expectations. If leaders aren't expected to answer, only to dominate, then the function of public questioning erodes. Supporters counter this by arguing the opposite, that journalists have abused their role, and moments like this are overdue corrections. Two completely different interpretations, same exact footage. And that's why this moment matters, because it sits at the intersection of media, power, and perception, and exposes how fragile accountability becomes in a world driven by clips instead of context. This press conference wasn't unique because of what Trump said. It was unique because of how easily the conversation shifted. One question, one pivot, one viral moment, and suddenly, everything else is noise. To really understand why this moment hit as hard as it did, you have to look beyond the insult and focus on the mechanics behind it. What Trump did in that exchange wasn't just confrontational, it was structural. He didn't simply avoid a question, he redefined the rules of the interaction in real time. In a normal press conference, the power dynamic is clear. A reporter asks a question on behalf of the public, the official responds. Even when answers are vague, the structure itself reinforces accountability. Trump disrupts that structure completely. By refusing to engage with the substance of Kaitlan Collins' question, and instead targeting her credibility, tone, and demeanor, he flips the hierarchy. The reporter is no longer the one applying pressure. She becomes the subject under scrutiny. And once that shift happens, the original issue loses gravity. This works because of how human attention functions. People remember emotion more than information, conflict more than context, dominance more than detail. When viewers watch that exchange, their brains don't latch onto the policy implications. They lock onto the tension, the facial expressions, the tone, the power struggle unfolding in real time. Trump understands this instinctively. He knows that in a media ecosystem driven by clips, headlines, and outrage, a confrontation will always outperform an explanation. A 30-second clash will travel farther than a 5-minute answer ever could. And once the clip goes viral, the narrative is sealed. This tactic also exploits something deeper: audience polarization. Supporters interpret the exchange as strength, a leader refusing to submit to what they believe is hostile or biased media. To them, Trump isn't dodging, he's pushing back. He's asserting control. He's saying what others won't. Critics see the opposite. They see evasion disguised as confidence, a deliberate maneuver to avoid scrutiny by turning accountability into spectacle. To them, the attack on the reporter isn't strength, it's a shield. Both interpretations coexist, and that's exactly why the tactic is so powerful. Because no matter which side you're on, you're reacting emotionally. You're engaging. You're sharing the clip. You're arguing about tone and behavior instead of substance. And that has consequences. Over time, moments like this reshape public expectations. We stop evaluating leaders based on the quality of their answers and start judging them based on how they perform under pressure. Politics becomes less about resolution and more about domination. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens through repetition. Each viral confrontation reinforces the idea that winning the moment matters more than addressing the issue. That accountability is optional if you can control attention. That spectacle can substitute for substance. And journalists are left navigating a shrinking space. Push harder and risk becoming the story. Pull back and risk accusations of complicity. Either way, the exchange benefits the person with the louder platform. That's the uncomfortable truth at the center of this moment. It's not just about Trump. It's not just about CNN. It's about a media environment where attention is the real currency, and conflict is the fastest way to earn it. So when you think back on this exchange, ask yourself something honestly. Do you remember the exact question Kaitlan Collins asked, or do you remember how Trump responded? Because that answer tells you why moments like this keep happening, and why they're likely to become even more common. If you made it to the end, subscribe for more deep breakdowns that go beyond the clip. Hit like if this added context you don't usually hear. And comment below, is this political strength, strategic manipulation, or the cost of modern media? That debate is exactly where this story lives now.